Hi everybody, this is Tom from Screen Printing Artist and screenprintingartist.com. You can visit screenprintingartist.com and you can see the courses that I have available, other options for training, some links to some articles. The CorelDRAW Bootcamp in particular is available there, which has a lot of trainings similar and tutorials similar to what I'm going to show here. So check it out. I'm going to go ahead and dive in. Today we're going to make yoga design. So it's going to be like a yoga logo. In this case, it's like a mandala design. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, so forgive me if I'm not. But we're going to go ahead and start with a kind of freehand. So you use the freehand tool. And one thing when I like to make smooth shapes, you can use the bezier tool for this as well. Everybody has a personal preference on how they want to do this. So I like to click and then double click again and then double click again. So I'm just going to do it this way to really try to minimize the amount of nodes that I have in this shape. I'm just going to move some of the nodes around just a little bit. And then I'm going to double click, which selects all the nodes in the shape, and I'm going to hit the curve tool. And then that allows me to kind of curve these now. So you can see I kind of curve it here, and I'm going to kind of curve it out. And then here, we're going to kind of curve it this way, and then here, and then here. And now I want to like finalize this shape. And one of the things I do that's like a shortcut is I'll make two nodes and I'll delete the one in the middle to you may have seen me do that on some of my other tutorials, and it allows me to kind of smooth my shapes out. And now that I have this shape, I'm going to make just a little reference shape here, and that's just like a straight line. Now it's a little different than using a guideline. You could absolutely use a guideline here, but I'm just going to make an additional shape because later on I can use that to kind of trim it if I want to. So I'm going to click twice so I can skew it, and then I can kind of move my shape so it's overlapping just a little bit. And then I want to make a second shape. I'm going to duplicate it. Now if you don't want your duplicates offset like that one, it's important to go ahead and set the duplicates to 0 up here in the property bar. At least in this is CorelDRAW X7. So once that's done, I can save my design, Control Shift S, save it as, I'll just save it as Yoga 1. Save it like that, and then I'm going to duplicate my shape. Now you see it duplicated, but it's on top of the other one. And then I can use the nudge tools, nudge it over a little bit, and then I kind of bump it up just a little bit. And you can see it's kind of made a secondary shape in here. And I want it to be kind of uneven. If I want it to be perfect, I would have to use the contour tool, but I kind of want a little drama to it. So I'm going to combine those two, Command L, and then I go back to the freehand and I just connect them here real quick. So I just click and click. And now I've connected that shape. And now I can make a secondary shape. I'm just going to go ahead and drag it, and I'm going to down to the right a little bit, click, and then I'm going to drag it up so it's a little smaller. So I kind of shrunk it a little bit. You can see how this works here. And I kind of bring it in a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab just the nodes on this piece right here, and I'm going to kind of extend those in. So you see how that works. So it just kind of goes in a little bit, but it's not a perfect shape there or position. So if I wanted to, I could have this drop off, but as it is, I'm going to kind of keep this shape. It's kind of like a double shape, as it kind of arcs in here and goes down. I think I may actually trim this off. So changing my mind here, I may actually just drag this off here and then leave it like that. And then what you can do, you can use your first shape to kind of trim your second shape. You just use the trim command there. And then you can break it, Control K, and just delete the bottom piece, see? And then you have this piece kind of combining with this piece. And if I turn them black, you'll see kind of how they look, right? I can delete the outlines so you can see how they're kind of working this way. And then I need the other pieces for my shape here. So I'm going to go ahead and trim these. I'll group them. And then I'm going to click this, and then click this, and I'm going to go ahead and trim it. Then I'll delete this. And then what I can do is I can take this group now, and I can just hold the Control key, flip it, and then right click. And then I've got kind of see how this is kind of this sort of shape here, where it kind of swings out and then comes back in. And now what I can do is I can make a couple of shapes inside of here that kind of overlap it and kind of add. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this. And then what I want to do is I'm going to take this, click it. I'm going to use ellipses. I'm going to duplicate that, Control D. I'm going to enlarge it a little bit. Just have it skewed just a little, off the center here. I'm going to Control L and then combine it. And again, I'm going to kind of move it up here. So it's just kind of like this shape. And then what I want to do is I want to combine this shape with this shape. So I ungroup it, and then click this, I ungroup that, and then I want to weld them. And you can see, let me go I'm going to go to wireframe mode here. You see how they're combined now? And I'll undo it real quick to show you. See how they weren't combined? And now I go forward, and now they're combined. So now they're one solid shape, even at the bottom, because I welded them all together. And that's advantageous for a couple of reasons, but at least for starting, it's a good way to go with this. Now I made this shape, and now I'm going to trim that with this. I'm going to trim it right there, trim, and then I can break it, Control K, and just get rid of the top, and delete the top. And then you can kind of see, then I can take this, and I can go Control D, duplicate it, and then go a little bit smaller, bump it up, and I have my secondary shape. And then you can kind of take a different approach to creating a second shape here by making some bigger circles. So I'm going to just make like a nice big circle here. And whenever you make a circle here and you want to orient it, click the second one, hit the C key, and it'll center it. And I can kind of stretch it a little bit more too, if I want it to arc a little bit less. And then I'll click it again, Control D, duplicate, and then hold the Shift key and bring it down to, right about here. And in this case, for these, what I'm going to do, because I don't want these to merge with these other pieces, I'm going to make this one a solid white, and I'm going to make this one a solid black. And you'll see how that kind of overlaps there. And I'm just going to leave these, and then I'm going to make duplicates of this. And so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go to wireframe mode. I'm going to make duplicates of this, and I'm going to shrink them down a little bit. So Control D, and I shrink them down a little bit so they're like about that big there. And I'm going to take the inside one and make it the same distance as the top piece right here. You can see that. And so I'll make sure these are on top. I'll hit Shift, page up, and then so you can see this piece right here. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring this bottom shape, and I'm going to go duplicate that. I'm going to bring it up to the top, page up. So now it's on top of all this. And now I'm going to take this outside shape, and I'm going to, because I duplicated it, I can Control K and break it apart. And then I hold the Shift key and just deselect the outside, and I'll delete all the inside pieces. And a lot of times if I'm working like this, I'll just make the outside like a different color than what I'm working on. So in this case I made it magenta, and I fill it with nothing. And then you can just kind of see, and this is the piece I'm going to use as like a trim piece kind of. I'm going to be able to merge this piece with what's going on inside, and just use that as a reference. So now I got this piece, and I've got all these shapes, and then I want to create some shapes behind this, so just to kind of finish this thing out. So I'm going to do this kind of quick. I'm going to go ahead and create kind of an oval here. I'm going to Control Q so I make it into a curve instead of an oval, and that way I can stretch it a little bit. If I hold the Control key, it combines it to center, and then I kind of twist it in these two directions here, and you can see how it kind of elongates it a little bit. And then hold the Shift key so I can shrink it a little bit, and I'll stretch it. And then I'm going to align it to center, hit the center key so it aligns to center. So you use the C key on the keyboard. I'm going to stretch it just a little bit more here, like this. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to Control D, duplicate, and I'll enlarge it just a little bit. You see how that kind of makes it a little bit darker on the top. Fill it with black, Shift, page down, and then the top piece I'll do white. This one, and they both go page down. I'm going to group. I'm going to save them. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this over here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to shrink it just a little bit. And then I'm going to turn it. And then I'm going to hit the duplicate key. And you see how it does it again? Do the same, like 3 steps to it. I'll go duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. And then these can be just skewed a little bit just so they go down like that. And then I can take all of these and just kind of stretch them just a little bit bigger like that. And then the key to that then is like I want them basically to be the opposite. So I want this to go page down. Then I hold the shift key and page down the next one, hold the shift key, page down the next one, hold the shift key, page down, hold the shift key, and page down. And then I can kind of bump them up and over if I want, just so they're arced a little bit. But it's nice to work this way so you're making shortcuts. You're kind of shortcutting building this thing by duplicating things in this manner. It makes it go a little bit faster. I want a little bit more space there, and I'm just going to stretch it just a little bit again, like that. And I just want to make sure that this is still centered. Hit the C key, and then these pieces, you see how they are right there. I'm going to go Control Duplicate, and you can just flip the other way and kind of center those. And I save my file. And then I'm going to take a smaller piece right here, and I'm just going to use an oval, make a circle in the middle here. Click, hit the C key, let me fill it with white, bump it down a little bit, and then Control D, a little bit bigger, and I'll distort it just a hair, and then fill it with black, and I'll shift, or Control page, that just goes down 1 when you Control page down. I just make sure these are all centered with this, hit the center key, yes, save it. Okay, and then we keep going, and we're going to build out some stuff inside of here, and then a couple other pieces. So we're going to go ahead and make a shape here. So I'm going to make like a wedge here, and I'm just going to go Control D, I'm going to flip it, and now I'm going to take this, drag it over, and just line it up and right click. And I'll take all of these and I'll just put somewhat of a thick outline on here. I'll go like 1.5. I'll put scale on object, but I don't want them behind the fill. So I'm going to say okay. Let's go just a hair bigger than that. Let's go up to 2.5. Say okay. Let's fill them with white, just so there's something there. I'm going to instead of grouping them, I think I'm going to, let's go ahead and merge them, but not weld them, because they weld them and just make a big square. But let's just Control L and combine them. And now what I can do is I'm going to click again. I'm going to go 45 here. And then I'm going to go Control D and flip it the other way. And then since it's on top, I'm going to go this way. You can kind of see it overlaps there. And then this way, here, like that. Slide it down a little bit. Let's go ahead and make it even. Hit B is the bottom key. Bump it over a little bit with the nudge tools. They're even. There we go. And then go ahead and bring this down. You can drag it down here. Right click. And so what you're going to do with this now, you'll see when you use this and go, when you use these 3, I'm going to go over, and then I'll do it again. Control D, Control D, Control D, and then we'll go to skew them up just so that they're pretty straight. I'll square them with this, hit the C key, and then I'm going to just use the envelope tool here on them. Let's go envelope. I'm going to use the curve envelope, so it's a single arc. Hold the control key and we'll arc it that way. And we'll also arc it. Now I hold the shift key and it arcs it opposite and opposite. So bring this in like that. So we rounded them, so you can see how it kind of arcs there. I'm going to hold the control key, arc it just a little bit more, and then we'll go ahead and move it up here. Stretch it out just a little bit, and then I'll go hold the shift key and center it. I'm going to go to the back, shift page down, and then I'm going to do is see this shape in here. I'm going to take this, I'm going to go arrange, effects, power clip, place inside frame, and I'll throw it inside there. So you kind of threw it inside of this frame here. And then all I have to do is I need to trim that frame, so I need to duplicate this shape, Control D, and I need to come up here and just, whoops, wrong shape. I'm going to click here, duplicate that shape, and then bring it in to about there, where it's right about there. And then I just need to trim these shapes with this inside one. I'm going to go ahead and look at the wireframe and see where that size is. So that size is correct for trimming it, because I want it to end right about here. So to trim that shape, I need to trim off all the outside edges for this. And then what I really want though, and I may have to undo this because I really want this white to be just this one shape and the black to be an outside shape. So I kind of need to make it into a donut. So I'm going to go ahead and undo this power clip just to make life easier. I'm going to go ahead and let's go here just so we can see what we're doing here. I'm going to go undo, Control Z, and I'm going to make this a donut first. So the way to do that is you want your outside shape to be combined with your farthest inside shape. So essentially this shape and your outside shape, you need to hit Control L, and then you take your inside one and combine it with this one and Control L. And now you'll have basically a donut. So this piece, you can see that piece, just so you can see it better. That piece, if I fill it with something, see how it's a donut shape now? So I basically combine the inside with the outside and made an outside edge, and then an outside with the inside and made an inside edge. And now I can take this magenta outside edge here, Control D, and I can move it in again, holding the shift key, and go to that edge, that lip right there. I'm just going to bend it a little bit, just so I'm right on that black edge right there. And then I can use this to trim these shapes. So I can use this to, and I want to make sure I'm extending into the shape, but not a little bit less, but just about right there. Looks pretty close. So what I'm going to do is you just have to make a cut shape. So the easiest way a lot of times to do that is just to make a big square bigger than what you're doing, and then click the inside one and then hit Control L. And we've essentially done is you made like a cookie cutter shape. See, you made that shape, but I don't have to fill it. And I'm just going to use this to cut out this shape here, trim, and then use it to cut this shape here and trim. And then I'll delete this. Don't really need it anymore, at least not for that. And then I'll come up here, and now I can take this and place it inside of here. Oh, don't need to update my software either. Okay, so you can kind of see where that overlaps there, and then this is kind of going on down there. And now we can do a couple of cool things down here and kind of wrap this up. So what we want to do here is we want to do just a couple of different patterns. I'm going to use this, and I like to use some of the stuff I've already done because it saves time. So I'm going to group these two objects and then combine them with this and group that. I'll just go down one, save it there, and then I'm going to drag it down. I'm going to hit right click, I'm going to flip it, I'm going to drag it up here, and then I'll shrink it. Okay, so we're going to keep going with this and just kind of can drop these down, um, page down, and then you can also rotate them a little bit. Rotate it a little bit this way. Just using those rotation tools, shift page down, and then kind of bump it up, make it a little bit smaller. Click it again, rotate, drop it down a little bit in size, move it over, shift page down, and then you can select both of them, Control D, and then hold the Control key, flip them, and then I just nudge them over using the nudge tools. Have that, and then I want to make a shape underneath this that kind of combines these two. So I'm just gonna let's go ahead and use a curve. Duplicate it, bring it down, and I'll skew it just a little bit. Combine them, Control L, fill them, move it right here. I'm gonna go like right there. I'm gonna drag it down a little bit and do it right there too. So there's two of them, and then I'll click on both and hit C, and then I'm gonna combine these two, Control L, and then I'm just gonna cut them real quick. I'm just gonna make it like a real quick, manually done shape here to trim them. Just make sure I go around the whole thing, and then just click here, and then click this, and then just trim. Whoops, that didn't work the way I planned. What happened? Oh, I trimmed the wrong thing. That can happen. Sometimes you click the wrong thing and then you gotta undo it. That's what's great about the undo key though, right? Click, trim, there we go. Delete this shape that I used to trim it, and then I have a shape up here. I'm just going to take this and that and drag it down, right click, flip it, bring it up. I'll probably just shrink it a little bit just so it fits here in the bottom without too much modification, and then I'll use just some line work here. Probably just go here like this. Just making some lines here, and then if you remember that same width that we used there, I can just take these and Control L, combine them, and then I can just right click and drag. Actually, that might not work. Let me take that back. Cancel, because what I want, I'm going to go into this power clip here and just copy it. Control C. Now I'll paste it. Now I can use it. I can just drag it here and say copy outline here. So it's the same width that way. Here, let me delete that. And then I can take this, Control D, hold the Control key and flip it. And then I just nudge it over. And then we're pretty much done here with our shape that we're going to do. One thing I do want to do is I kind of want to make an underneath piece here just to kind of work a little bit, but I'm also going to get rid of this outside piece, delete that, and I'm going to kind of crush this just a little because it's a little bit wide, so I want to crush it just a little bit, not too much, maybe about right there, and then I want a piece that kind of fills in this shape a lot, so I kind of want to, maybe not as big, so you don't want to go all the way to the edge here, but you want a kind of piece that's going to go like this kind of shape. I'm just freehanding that a little bit, but we'll combine it here. Join, and then just real quick, let me double click here, double click, and then I can delete these, and then double click, and then I can delete whatever's up here. So I don't even need to know if the nodes are right or not, if the shape looks good, or if it doesn't look good. I just kind of assume that I'm going to click here, let me click again, kind of drag it this way, and kind of bring it down a little bit. I want it to match this shape, like here a little bit. Click here. This shape, like there. I kind of want it to. I'm going to go Control D. I'm just going to shrink it. It's okay if it's a little bit skewed, like if the shape isn't perfect, because I actually kind of like that. I'm going to Control L, fill it. So see, that shape is like that there. And then what you want in there is just, it's kind of like more of the same of what you've got going on in here. You can pull like one of these, Control C, Control V, and then kind of flip this here, and I'll enlarge it a little bit. And I'll just use this right there. And then what I can do at this point is I can trim it with that. So I hit trim, and then here I'll ungroup it, and I can just delete these pieces, ungroup, Control U, and then I Control K on that, and then Control K, and then I should be able to delete whatever's down here, and I can group this back up again, and then part of this that I want is I want to make just like a little loop underneath with some lines, so I'll probably use these. There, so you can kind of see if I can make it fit there. Maybe it isn't a perfect fit, but the idea is you want to kind of, I can use the node tool too if I need to move them in enough so they're not hitting. Okay, try and wrap this part here. We're going to right click, then you can kind of flip it this way and then rotate it. You know, same sort of thing. Just trying to put it on the other side here. So it looks kind of even. And again, if you know, if your nodes are sticking out here, there's a bunch of different things you can do. Sometimes the easiest thing is just to move them in. If they're straight lines, it's not that big of a deal to just nudge them in a little bit with your shape tool. You could trim them as well. Just trimming them maybe is a couple more steps. So it just depends on what you're, what you're comfortable with. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to rotate it slightly and then shrink it down so I can use it here. Drop it a little bit like right there, and I'm going to use it, right click and then rotate it this way, and then I'll be able to use it here as well. And then these two, I can group them, shift page down, and then I can use this to trim them. Another thing you can do after you trim them too is you can always trim them a second time. If I don't want to break them all apart, if there's a lot of pieces, you can just be a little lazy like this. Just use a secondary piece, click there, and then trim them again. So in this case, we have this piece right here. I'm going to group it. I'm going to slide it across, right click, and then flip it. And now, so what we've done at this point, and if you want to know to make sure it's totally centered with the other side, one little nice trick is to group them both and then hold this, click the middle, and then hit center. And then you know they're exactly centered. Um, and if they're not quite as large as the outside edge here, then so much the better, because then when we're going to do the next step, what we're going to do, you're going to see how it kind of progresses here. So what we're going to do now is save the file. I'm going to make my artboard a little bigger, just a little bit square. So I'll just make it 13 by 13 just to make it a bigger square. I'll take this piece up, move it up here, here. And I want to do just a couple of minor things here. I'm going to select all and group it and then drag it down a little bit here. I want to put some organic shapes on the ends just for some fun kind of styling. So I'm just going to take this here, and I'm just going to go draw a shape right out of the end here. And you can always undo really quick. So I have my finger on the undo button. If I don't do a smooth shape, that isn't too bad. And then I'm going to take a similar sort of one, go the other way, a little smaller. That's not too bad. And if you don't freehand very well, that's okay. It's just practice. And sometimes with the mouse, like if I don't like what I just did, I'll just take it and I'll just delete right away, undo. Undo, and then here, take all these, and then we're gonna bump them up to like a 2-point. We'll say scale, but we won't. And then we'll go and look here and see if they're kind of wonky at all. We'll center them. See if it's not directly on the middle, then it might be a little weird. This one, same sort of thing, might be a little weird. And then again, as I did with the other things, you can always make 2 points and then delete the middle one if you want it more rounded. Another good thing to do is to actually go in here with a control shape, either an oval or an ellipse, to make them exactly elliptical. I'm not going to spend that kind of time right now. I'm just going to try to get this kind of close to what looks like a good spiral. And if it looks like it's working, I'm just going to add a little piece here, about the same size on each of them. I'm going to kind of go off the end like that. Like that. This one looks like it's sticking out a little bit there. And then again, save it. And then what we can do is just take this piece and we can kind of see how it's going to arc around. One of the things you do when you do designs like this is you can kind of duplicate them in multiples. So take this and group it, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to click, and you see how that gives me the center point, and I can drag it down. Now if I hold the control key, it'll pull it to the corner of the design, but if I hold the shift key, it locks it to positional, so it like locks it to the 3 points there, here, and then you go all the way to the corner. But what I really want to do is I want to go down a little further. I'm just going to use my best guess here, just kind of center it about there, and about here. And we can always figure this out later. Another thing you could do is you can pull, if you have your rulers on, you can pull a guideline over, center it, make sure it's on the center line of the guideline. If I zoomed in a little bit, you'd see it. So if I click here and then I click again, make make sure it's on the center line of the guideline. It looks like it is. And now what I do, since I move my center point for my curve here, I can grab one of these handles and I'll actually pull it off here and see how it rotates on that, which is kind of nice because it's like now it's, you know, letting me rotate. I'm going to click it again and see where we end up here. Now it looks like these are going to hit, so I can go back, undelete this, or ungroup it, and just use the metal piece and see how that'll work here. And again, I'll have to move the center point down. Let me check if it's on the center line here. It's a little off, so I want right in the center line. And then when I drag this, I can actually click it. Now once I've done that, now I can really see if this is gonna work. So I can click it again. Let me zoom out here a little bit. Undo it. D. And then we go around and see if it's actually going to work. Now see how it went and it hit there at the end. So all that means is, I'm going to back it up. All that means is I need to lower my center point just a little bit. And then you can do it again. Click it here. Whoops. Click it again. You know what? I'm going to use this too. I'm going to combine the two. Let me group them both. Group. And I'll just pull the center point for both of them down. Let's go just a little further. Go right there. And then we'll see. And then, so you just control D all the way around and see if it doesn't hit. If it hits, then you know you got to pull it down just a little more. Oop, a little too much. Go back. And click. Here we go. So this is where you can start. You can say, okay, here's a good start for my yoga design. I'm going to group it, bring all this in, and then I center to the page. See all that. And then everybody can be like, oh, what about these shapes, right? We want these to be averaged in there. So what you can do is you take these, ungroup them, and I can just center them kind of. I'll ungroup again. So I can do it like this. We can just center them inside of here, roughly like that. And the same thing, so you want to find the center point that you pivoted off of on this one, and you're going to draw, you know it'll be here, but you just want to click on it real quick. Let me zoom in here so I can find it. And so you click the center point here, and you see, oh, that's on there, so I'm going to drive this other one down right here, click it there, and just make sure. If you want to be real precise, I could zoom in with the zoom tool and get, like, make sure I'm like dead on, but if I get close enough, I should be okay. And now one thing I can do is I can say snap to guidelines here, make life easier for me. And then I can click this, and I'll click it again, and then I'll take the center point, and I'll just go right to that middle. See how it snapped to it? And then I can take this and I can just drag it over here and just kind of right click. And then the idea is hopefully I can go here, here, here. Now see how it's going a little less there? So I'm going to move it over just a little bit. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to nudge these. Just double click them a little bit. You nudge them just a hair. Same sort of thing. Drag it over. Whoops. Click it again. Roll it this way. And then right click. And then D, D. Again, you may have to move it just a hair. One way or another. And so that's the kind of the method you can use to kind of build these out rather quickly. Now I have a couple other things you can do where you're, just kind of making shapes really fast. But one way, if you have made a bunch of shapes already in a design, you can take a chunk that you've already done a lot of times, and you can just kind of drag it down, right click. I'm going to ungroup it here. I'm just going to delete the top off. Whoops, not that top, this top. Delete that. And then I'm going to flip it and then shrink it a little bit, and I'll probably rotate it. Just a little bit here. There. And what you can do is you'll see, maybe I don't want to go to every one, maybe I want to go to every other one. I'm going to click here and I'm going to click again, but then I want to bring this down again to there, and then I'll click and then I'll rotate off, and instead of going there I want to go to just every other one like that, and then I'll go here. I can't go to that one, but I can go to this one, if that makes sense. And then click here, that one, click here, go to this one. And in that sense, I can build this out a little quicker. Oops. I'm going to ungroup and then regroup it, and that'll recenter it so I can rotate it. I'll go this way. And so if we go here, what I can do again is I can go this way. And I'll just kind of align them on the top, group them, center them, and then here, click that, and then I'll take the center point, go to the middle, and then I can do the same thing. I can go here, just kind of move them around. And sometimes um, it'll get stuck on like something, like it won't do an alignment perfect, and you just have to zoom in a little bit when that happens. That's fairly common. Like it wants to stick to this guideline for some reason, which is a little annoying. So you have to go off the guideline and then just center it on your own here. And now it's starting to work out. Now, I'm not going to finish this because if I was going to do the center, it would be something a little bit different. But I'm going to go ahead and say group, and then you're going to see how to finalize this design rather quickly. I'm just going to kind of make it, I'm going to make a background here just so we can see it, and then make a kind of a gray background, shift page down just so we can see how the design is in there. And then I'm just going to make a couple of pieces here, which are going to be like, they're going to be a straight line. So it's going to be like this all the way across here, center. And then I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to double click, convert it to curves, and then I'm going to just kind of arc it up. So I got to grab it in the middle. And that guideline. See, I arc that up a little bit. And then I'm going to click the bottom one, Control L, combine them, and then just combine the ends. Let me zoom out a little bit. And that'll be a black, it's going to be a black line there. I'm going to drag it down, click it, and then I'm going to hold the Control key and flip it. And then I'm going to hit this and that. I'm going to group the two. Oops, I think I hit the whole thing. Let me drag it down just a little bit. Click, click, group, and then I'm going to click this, CE, that centers them, and then I'm going to take my background, I'm going to duplicate that, drag it down so that it is right in the middle of them. See that? Let me get the snap guidelines off. That's getting annoying. And I just have to center on the bottom of this right here. And this one, same thing, center on the top there. And then fill it, shift page up, and then I'll push this to page up. And then I'll say no outline. This no outline. And I hit save. You can kind of see where this is going. Like, you start to get that feel of, is it working, is it not working, can you expand it? Maybe I can expand this a little bit, you know, click both of them, stretch it up, down a little bit, depending, right? Depending if it's working or not. I'm going to show you how to finalize this too. Let's go ahead and go back to what it was, because it was kind of cool when it was a little narrower. Make it a little narrower, a little bit less obvious here. That's good. No outline. I'm going to save my file, Control S. I'm going to get rid of any outline there. Now you just got to put the name of the place in there and then finalize the design. So one of the things that's really useful, if you have a design that's really intricate like this, I'm going to put it back to white, put this back to white, is if you want this to be, say you want it to be like a, you want to edit the whole thing and not just the sum of all the pieces. One thing that's really useful to do is to save, and then you Control Shift S. You're going to resave it as a different name. So Control Shift S. I'll say Yoga 1, 2. Save it. And what I'll do now is I'll take these two pieces that are on the top off, and I'll flip those off. And then I'll take my whole piece outside. I'm going to make it into just one shape. So if you have the sum of a lot of parts here, I'm going to group them. If you have a lot of parts that are kind of combining, but they're going to be hard to edit as one piece because I want to put a fade on this whole thing. What I'll do is I'll just go ahead and convert it to a bitmap, and I'll convert it to like a, if you want a really high resolution, you could do like a 600, but I'll just go 400 DPI bitmap, and it's fine, just so RGB color. I'm going to say okay. And then you're going to go in and actually trace it. And the reason you're doing this, you're like, oh, it was a vector before, and now I'm not making it a vector. Well, the reason you're doing this is to simplify it. I'm going to go outline trace, and I go detailed logo. And you can reduce this a little bit. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, just so you can see if there's some quality that's going to get mangled. And what you're going to do is go colors. You're going to go black and white, and then go into the settings. And now it's going to run through the I'm right clicking and left clicking there to zoom in, and now I'm going to click here, and I'm just kind of waiting because sometimes it gets a little wonky here. So now I'm going to push my detail most of the way up, and I'm going to let it run. And it's just kind of averaging it nice. You can see how it averaged it, right? It didn't do a perfect job, and some of these are kind of merged, but the sum of the parts is pretty good. And that you could always edit the smoothing a little bit and either up it or lower it. If it's too smooth, you can lower it a little bit, and it'll run through and it'll redo it again. And as soon as it's done, so it's a little bit less smooth here, and I'm just going to say okay. And now you can see why I did that. So essentially, I'm going to zoom out, and I saved it as a separate file. So now there's a group, 2,000 pieces or whatever. I'm going to ungroup it. I'm going to delete these outside pieces. I'm going to delete the bitmap that's behind it. Delete this piece. I'm going to delete, if there's anything in here, I'll delete it. Whoops, so we didn't want to delete that. Control undo. Now, one thing you can do is you can just check and see if these pieces are all, yeah, see, so they're basically sitting on top of this. What you can do now is you can try, see if this thing will work. That's your background square. I'll just fill it with nothing, so you won't click on it by accident. You can try taking all of this, see if it'll work, and just combining it. Not quite. It said, it's just a little bit too much for it. Oh, that's not correct. The correct is there's two pieces down here. I got to delete those. So there's a piece there and a piece there. Now it should work, actually. So it should work, technically. Your program should be powerful enough to do this, and you just combine them all, which is a fair amount of nodes for this thing, but we'll just see how it works. Oh, looks like it worked. Okay, so now you might say, well, why did I go through all that mess? Well, here's why. You can go in here now, and you can fill this. I'm going to fill this background with black. I'm going to put it to back. And then this, I'm actually going to create a fade here. I'm going to go, let's do like a gold. We'll go gold. Say okay. turn this whole thing. If you hold the control key, it makes it go sideways. I think I'll go this way. There. And I'll say OK. And now you see this shift page down. And you see now you can have this kind of a with the fade in there, right? And then this, I can just flip on top. And these pieces, I can just pick up the color, the brighter side of it. Or grab it right here. And I'll grab it right here. And we don't need any outlines, so I'll get rid of those. And then this is just black. And then I'll save the file S, and now I just gotta put my type in. So let's just call it Flow Yoga. Crystal Lake, Illinois, IL. And let's pick a yoga font. Control K if there is such a thing. I think there is. We could probably just pick Zaf Humanist. That's usually a good yoga font, right? Flow Yoga. And you can Control K and then Control K again. And then just make this initial caps a little bit bigger. Just so it looks a little bit, has a little more personality there. If you wanted to match it exact, you could see what point size it is, 107. This, make it 107. And then Q, I just converted all the curves here. You can always just pick the brighter one. Oops. It's always good too with yoga designs to just kind of spread things out a little bit. So I just nudge it over. Then you deselect, nudge it over a little more. Deselect, nudge it over a little more. Group, hit this, center it. Always bring it down just a little bit. And then Crystal Lake, Illinois, we can go here, down. Make this part look pretty small. You can also make it the darker version. And then bring it underneath. And spread it out real long. There. And center it, deselect, and then you just want to center it top to bottom. And you finish up, and you have your yoga logo. And the nice thing about having it done this way is you really can play with your flow here. Like I can really move things around if I don't like where the band is, or I want to create the banding more. I want to move this up. I can make an extra one here. If I want more of these, I can always add in, add in a little bit more lightness up top, or I can take and even add in more bands, even add in one at the bottom, add more variation essentially. Just say okay, and you can see how that plays out, kind of makes it vibrate a little bit more, or you can go back to the other one. Oops, I don't know what that was doing. I mean, granted, it's not super happy about doing this because there is a lot of nodes in there, but you get the idea. So here I just kind of tweaked it back again, adding a few more of those variations there. And you can also always go here and click here, and you can hit this interactive fill tool if you want, and that allows you to really control where your blend falls. So if I want my blend to be farther in, you can see there's more lightness there, and if I want this to be farther in, and then if I don't want this one, if I want this one to be on the edge, but I want more of a brighter band here, I can really move these around. And it gets a little hard to see with these nodes, but you get the idea. And I'll click off here and click off there. And so that's kind of nice because if you had dark going behind here, it makes this stand out a little bit more. So I think that works. So I'd definitely do that a little bit more. You could use the interactive fill tool for that, kind of make this come out a little more. Kind of make that dark area behind there a little more. And then this top band, maybe that needs to be carried over to the bottom too. And then the flow can stand out a little bit more. And that's pretty much it. So you can, this is a good idea to show how you can do like kind of an intricate design in a relatively short time in CorelDRAW, using some blends and fades, and create a nice logo that works works like a henna dyed design. And hopefully this gives you some ideas.